There is a growing group of Americans who want to put a red flag on top of the White House. Let's talk about it. You may not know this, but there are a number of groups who want to overturn our government and replace our Constitution. They are radical Islam, secular progressives, Antifa, and radical socialists. Now, radical socialists are a small but increasingly powerful group who are decades ahead of the rest of us in their work to install a new way of life and new government in our country. They're organized, they have a plan, and their members are already installed in many of our institutions: labor unions, school systems, the medical profession, the government, the military, probably your local coffee shop. They literally want to replace our way of life with communism and put a red flag on the top of the White House. Now, I'm going to play a compilation from the independent reporting of Dr. Carolyn Borisenko. Dr. Borisenko calls herself an analyst and independent reporter. She doesn't have much patience for Christians or conservatives, and she regularly calls us the R word on her live streams. Playing these clips is not an endorsement of her. I'm not suggesting that you follow her, although you can. It's a free country. But she does have some helpful content and insight documenting the plans of the radical left and explaining their positions. Here's a clip from one of her streams from 2024 where she shows a radical socialist explaining their plan.
Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds about how exactly a transfer of power could take place, but we did see a glimpse of revolutionary potential in this country in the summer of 2020. Let's imagine another scenario like the upsurge of the George Floyd movement, where millions and millions of people are pouring into the streets from coast to coast. But instead of a spontaneous uprising, we're talking about an organized uprising, a coordinated general strike action that has units of workers that have been preparing for it in every industry and every workplace.
A coordinated effort of workers across every union, because guys, every single union is run by socialists. Every single workplace. They're in the launch video for the Revolutionary Communists of America political party, they flat out said that their goal was to have people in every workplace, in every union, in every organization to coordinate exactly what they're talking about now. Let's just rewind.
Well, since we're on the subject, let's go ahead and watch a little clip from that launch video for the American Communist Party back in 2023.
One struggle, one fight. Workers of the world unite.
Capitalism today is suffering and despair alongside the most wealth and technology that we have ever known. That wealth and technology is in the hands of a tiny minority who live like parasites off of the rest of us, the working class, the people they exploit.
The Republican and Democratic parties represent the interests of the capitalist class and can never represent the interests of the working class. These parties cannot serve two masters. The workers will be squeezed more and more and will be forced to make hard sacrifices while the capitalists will fatten their pockets, whether it's Trump or it's Harris in the White House.
You see why both parties are here. Over the last decade, the richest 1% has captured 54% of global wealth. They have a record fortune of $44 trillion.
No matter who wins this election in November, the working class will ultimately lose, as billions will continue to be sent abroad to support the genocide of the Palestinians and a proxy war in Ukraine, while the 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 92% of Americans can't even afford a one-bedroom apartment.
Over 100 million people in the richest country on earth cannot afford their health care. Wages have stagnated for half a century. This is the reason that 69% of voters say that the entire US political and economic system needs major changes or to be torn down entirely. The working class is right to be angry. They're right to want to fight. They're right to hate the establishment, to hate the status quo.
That's why we say no to both of these capitalist parties. And we say it's about time the workers have their own party.
Now, if you notice here, the American Communist Party is bringing up very real problems. Corruption in government, corruption in the oligarchy. These are things that Monique and I have talked about on All the Things for years. The housing problem. What do we do about that? Stagnant wages. And all of these themes definitely appeal to young people who are feeling more and more like the American dream is out of reach for them. Many of them were born after the fall of the Soviet Union, and they don't care about people like Stalin and Mao. They don't admire them. But these people do want to set up a form of communism that they believe has never been tried. Now let's go back to Dr. Borisenko.
That are organized as units preparing to do something more than just paralyze industry, to do something more than just bring society to a halt. You have strike committees, workers' councils prepared in advance. We saw what Trump did. He went underground in his...
Guys, the reason that they launched their political party now is the political party is the organizing force for the revolution. This is when it starts to get real. They spent 70 years taking over the institutions inch by inch. They have spent the last 15 years proactively destabilizing our society. Now they move into the real stuff. Now the attacks on capitalism, which I've been telling you are going to come more and more often. And you know how they're going to come? By getting people inside every single... What have I been saying for years? The 4 goals of the woke left are always the same. Gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. We hear them attack capitalism all the time when they name capitalism and they say they want to abolish it. But what he is talking about is a literal attack on capitalism. They're literally using the workplaces to coordinate the revolution. They're using capitalism to coordinate the revolution. They are making their attack quite literally on capitalism. What have I been saying? Around 2008, 2009, 2010, they started creating equity departments in public school districts, formalized equity departments. This was right when Barack Obama got elected. This was when Occupy Wall Street happened. This is when we started seeing mentions of racism in the New York Times and the Washington Post and all those newspapers go through the roof. At the same time, they were forming equity departments and formalizing equity departments in every K through 12 school district across the country, and no one noticed because they didn't know what equity meant. They thought it was about equality when it never was. Equity means Marxism. What that means is the first graduating classes from high school and from college that have been educated in equity from the time they were 5 years old are graduating now and entering the workforce now. And these people are telling you flat out, we are going to use the workforces, the corporations, the organizations to coordinate the literal Marxist revolution. So someone asked earlier, why do I say 10 to 15 years left? Because that's the stage we're at. That's the stage we're at. We're at like stage 3 cancer and we're almost getting to stage 4.
Millions of people are pouring into the streets from coast to coast. But instead of a spontaneous uprising, we're talking about an organized uprising, a coordinated general strike action that has units of workers that have been preparing for it in every industry and every workplace, that are organized as units preparing to do something more than just paralyze industry, to do something more than just bring society to a halt. You have strike committees, workers' councils prepared in advance this week, where after a lot of intense debate, there's a formal announcement that says the office of the Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant. Well, with a victorious transfer of power, I think we can make a similar announcement when it comes out. It'll be a shorter one. The United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
When I say they're talking about overthrowing the government, what I mean is they're talking about overthrowing the government. The Civil War is not red versus blue. The Civil War is radical revolutionary socialist versus the government.
And I personally, this is just on a detail, but I think it would be nice if we could get a hold of the national emergency system that they tested on Wednesday and make sure that we blast out on every cell phone, every TV, every radio in the whole country and make sure everyone knows this is the end of capitalism right here. We're going to have a lot of red flags too. Big ones. I'm mostly excited for the one that's going to go on top of the One World Trade Center. But I think the White House is going to look pretty epic as well, a red flag over the White House. And looking at capitalism, looking around, especially once we get outside here in Manhattan, this nerve center of imperialism, those imposing skyscrapers of finance capital, and realizing capitalism is not natural. Capitalism is not sacred or eternal. It's not omnipotent, and it won't last forever. Comrades, until we reach the day where we can see that task through to the end, it's our duty to gather together the grave diggers of this system and prepare for revolution.
There's a lot there, but this should sober you up about what radical socialists are planning. And again, many of these people are American citizens. They're living among us. They're already working in our schools, the government, the military, the medical profession, are in our institutions. So what do? Well, the first thing we need to do is listen better and stop dismissing the high level of sympathy in our country towards socialism. We need to stop telling young people that socialism is just silly, and we need to instead start offering better answers. The second thing we must do is educate ourselves about what radical socialists actually believe, what motivates them to believe it, and to stop telling them about the failures of Stalin and Mao. That's not helpful, and even they don't see Stalin and Mao as heroes. The upcoming generation has very real concerns about the American dream being out of reach, and these socialists are leveraging those grievances to get them into anger and thinking that they have the solutions to those problems. And we must address those concerns, not by simply dismissing socialism, but by making our case about why free markets offer better solutions and why they're confusing capitalism with crony capitalism or corrupt capitalism. I don't even like the word capitalism. I prefer the term free markets, but that's a conversation for a different video. Finally, we must stand strong to take back our institutions. And this is going to require leaders who are willing to fire people. We also need leaders who are willing to make traditional ideas the center, not the fringe. We need people who will become apologists for free markets and to explain to young people that while their grievances might be legitimate, the solutions that socialists are offering them will not only break the system, but it will make things much, much worse. If this conversation resonated with you, please drop a comment below or share it with someone that you think might find it helpful as well. And don't forget to download the official Center for Biblical Unity mobile app so you can stay up to date on all of our latest content. I'll put a link to that in the description below.